Don Slama, the Fast and Furious machine, just took over the lead here at the Super Clean Shy Diesel Extravaganza presented by Lucas Oil Products in the Super Farm Tractor category. Up next, one of the John Deeres in the category called Runnin' Buck Wild. Andy Schwink giving it a run here, but he's going to lay up a little bit short. 3:05.03 for the man coming in here, currently 6th in the points.
And you can see him shaking his head there a little bit at the end. And, that's one thing this team has really lacked. They started the season a little bit slow and had a string there of 3 podiums in 4 events and then kind of dropped off outside of the top 10 at their next hook. And so that's kind of the secret, is you got to find that consistency. You've got to figure out how to get your tractor to perform, on maybe those marbly tracks that are maybe a little bit harder, and make those adjustments on the fly as you see things happening. Yeah, and Schwink, the defending winner of this hook from 1 year ago, I'm sure was hoping for much, much better than that. Doug Babb coming up next. Dime a Dozen is the name of the farm all. And he's going to be just a little bit short of where Andy Schwink was, 3:02.56. I talked about moving way back earlier, and it looked like he maybe moved just a little bit too much back, because you can see the front end pickup and launch right off the line. A great hole shot there, but then gets up on the wheelie bars just a little bit, and then the tractor struggles to find that balance, throughout the entire run. But hey, I make it sound like it's really easy to set up a tractor over here, but it's really quite difficult. I mean, you've got a 9,300-pound machine. You've got probably 1,000 to 1,500 pounds of movable weight that you have to decide kind of on the fly as the night is progressing where you're going to put it. Not to mention tire pressure, gear selection, driving style, all those different things that play into setting up one of these Super Farm tractors. It's actually quite difficult.
Jason Vinny comes in here 5th in the points on the all cranked up and fresh off of back-to-back podiums at Hillsboro. He was on the podium here in 2017, but he's going to miss that podium this evening at 3:09.65.
I wonder if he didn't try to use a little bit of brake to kind of keep it over there on that left sideline, because he's the guy that went the farthest over there so far, and then it looks like he had to brake to bring it back around because the track was just pulling him to that side too far. And of course, if you hit that white line, it's a DQ, and you only get 25 points for your effort. And so they want to stay up there in contention and get as many points as possible. And so they'll take the licks on the end of the run with their distance by using that brake in the middle of the pass.
Up next, a great-looking tractor, that Case International called Pockets Change. Man behind the wheels, Jerry Barris, has not made all the hooks here this season. And unfortunately, he's going to be well short of what he needs to be competitive here this evening at 286.78.
And it really seems like the track may have changed here, throughout the night. Look at the rear tires. They're squatting, they're trying to dig in, but they're hardly moving any dirt against the buckboard of the sled. And so we know that they're not quite getting the grip that they need, because if they were, they'd be really tossing it back hard against that buckboard. And so players here are going to have to compensate for that.
We'll take a quick break. We still have a handful of tractors yet to go here inside of the Super Farm Tractor category. This is the Super Clean Shy Diesel Extravaganza presented by Lucas Oil Products. We're at the fairgrounds here in Terre Haute, Indiana. The action track, as it's known. A lot of history set at this racetrack. What they used to call the big cars that would come through here and then head off to Indianapolis. Leslie spoke with Keith Hannenberg earlier today.
Some mid-season breakage last year kept Keith Hannenberg from driving the Hog Wild the rest of the season, but having a little bit more time to change those parts and to repair the tractor has really seemed to pay off for you this year. So what parts did you change to kind of help lend us your success this year?
We did a little bit of gear ratio work and tires and a few other things, but yeah, we're just kind of learning as we go.
And you said also, too, this year, it's been kind of talking to people and learning some things as a driver, too, to become more consistent in the seat. So what have you learned as a driver that's helping you out?
I think the whole shot is really what I've learned, how to start out on my hook. I was coming out a little too aggressive last year, and I think that's probably helped me a little bit more patient.
And this tractor did a great job as it won the opening night at Hillsboro and had a shot at that prestigious belt buckle with Wagler behind the wheel. And Travis Christ ended up with that prestigious belt buckle as he had back-to-back second-place finishes. And he puts that John Deere to work there, 307 and 76.
It was a really impressive hook, the way it took off from the line. I thought he really had a shot at it here, and that's what he said he's been concentrating on this year. And so he left the line really smooth. He got that ground speed up very, very quickly, and I thought he was going to be able to leg it out.
We'll continue on here in the category with the Maximum Overdrive machine coming up here next. And Clay Darnell will just crack the 300-foot mark at 300.82.
Yeah, it seemed like as the box was rolling forward, it was really start to kind of bring the tractor down. But, man, you saw that box top off, and it really slammed forward and almost like it unloaded the tires just a little bit on him.
Well, we saw the all cranked up a little bit ago. This is the crank it up. Comes in here 7th in the points. Did grab a win at Rossville just 3 hooks ago. Dan Vinny doing the driving here, and there's still something left in this track. 3:13 and 37 is good enough to jump up into the top 3.
Yeah, and Team Crank here having the benefit of that team tractor running 4 or 5 places earlier. And he does a great job taking that information and making it work for his tractor, putting about 3.5 feet on the previous run by all cranked up. But the Team Crank seems to hit its stride right about Hillsboro. And, I was talking to him, the guys about that, and they said, we're just not real enthusiastic about the long drives that we have at some of those early hooks in the season. So we think that kind of takes some of the luster, out of our performance at those hooks. And so as the hooks get a little closer to home, a little less driving, a little better performance for them.
As we take a look at Shane Maston coming out here with the orange Agco Alice. It's called Thumpin' Pumpkin. And that Optima batteries transfer box just slammed the front of the sled. Big ground speed there for him, but the distance, unfortunately, a bit short at 3:03 and 11.
Yeah, and he had a really awesome run going there until he took that big left turn, headed towards that sideline. Probably had to hit the brakes just a little bit, so he didn't go out of bounds.
When we come back, we'll be down to the final 2 tractors in the category.
The Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League is brought to you by General Tire, anywhere is possible. Rhino Ag, born to lead. And by Lucas Oil, made in America, sold to the world.
Just 2 tractors left here in the Super Farm category at the Super Clean Shied Diesel Extravaganza presented by Lucas Oil. Christie out there does an incredibly good job. Has been on the tour for many, many years, and basically the woman behind the Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League. Well, General Tire is going to take us back to the final round at Hillsboro, our last hook.
Yeah, this is the lone win on the season here for Josh Miley, getting it done in the high maintenance. It was an interesting track here for our Super Farms, a lot more moisture than they predicted, and he was the guy that was able to make the changes to figure it out and put himself on top of the box.
Third in the points, 27 points back. Still has plenty of time to pick his way up there to the front. If, in fact, he can get it done, he'll need to start tonight.
Yeah, the good news for him, though, is that Dan Binney showed us there's something left here in this track, so he's still got a shot at it.
And he's going to miss it by just a little bit here. 3:11 and 47, respectable hook, but needed to get out just a little bit more if at all possible.
Yeah, and usually he's a guy that's a little bit more aggressive a little bit later in the track, maybe trying something new and different, but he's in kind of a precarious position here. Like you mentioned, third in the points. He's got to try to stay up there with just a few hooks left throughout the season, and so it looks like he's playing a little bit safe here, trying to gain as many points as he can in that position without doing something really wild that's going to maybe only get him 25 points when he needs to stay in the mix with the other players.
Unfortunately, the two guys he needed to get in front of are first and second here so far tonight. As we take a look at that beautiful John Deere called the Wicked Whitetail. That's what we kicked our show off with, and then they had that sled reset, so Jeremy Roberts dropped down to last. And the final tractor to go here is Jeremy Roberts. 3:09 and 53 is the distance, and that will hand Don Slama his first win on the 2019 season. Busy night here in a massively large category. Let's get it down to the podium with Leslie.
So an amazing pass for you tonight, Don, and you told me as you came up, you did just okay tonight. I think it's more than okay when you put 6 feet on the field.
Well, it felt like it was just okay, but yeah, it was pretty good. You know that. I was really happy with the run we had. It balanced out good. We changed a lot of things tonight. We changed some weight around. We changed some air pressure. We changed the gear that we'd normally run, and it all worked out. We hugged that right-hand side. I watched that pretty hard, and we just did it, and the good Lord was on our side when we did all right.
Yes, he did. As you take a look at that, that is a massive number on the rest of this very tough field. Chuck Gunterberg, positive ground, is leading in the points coming in here. So Don Slama, who was second, will close that up just a bit. As you take a look at the rest of the field there, some 18 tractors strong. Once again, we'll go back down to the podium and talk to second place, but first in the points.
We've seen lots of great passes this year from the positive ground tractor. And Chuck, you're doing what you need to do out there on the track to continue that points lead with those consistent passes.
Well, tonight I wanted to stay close to Don Slama in pulling. He was 2 tractors in back of me, and I made a good pass, solid pass down the track. I really didn't pick any particular spot, just laid her out there, and Don got ahead of me, but that's all right.
Yeah, still an amazingly solid second place finish for you.
I'm very happy with that. I'll definitely take it.
Here's a look at the points as Gunterberg came in here with a 14-point spread over Don Slama. Now cut down to 12. Josh, Dan, and Jason rounding out your top 5 as Chuck is starting to stretch it out on the gang here with a solid effort here tonight. Let's go down and talk to Dan Vinny. Ended up third.
So, Dan, when we were in Hillsboro, you talked about dialing in that new set of tires, and it seems like you might have had a really groundbreaking pass with them tonight.
Yeah, we've done some learning. We put them on before Hillsboro and struggled with them up there. We didn't know on air pressure. There's so many variables with it, and we just didn't know. Started one day in one spot, dropped them down the next day. That didn't work. We made a state hook at home, Badger state hook at home, and tried to learn a little more. Came down here, put a little more air in them, and it seemed to work tonight.
Yeah, that trial and error really paying off with this big podium for you guys.
Yeah, the thing about pulling is there's no practice. My practice just happened, so it's tough.
Never miss a pull. Go to propulling.com/set reminder to add all of the Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League airings to your personal calendar. Receive a calendar reminder minutes before each event airs.
Just 3 hooks left in the season for the Super Farm Tractors as they chase that prestigious championship. Hope you enjoyed all the action here from Terre Haute, Indiana at the Action Track. For more, you can always keep up with everything at ProPulling.com. For Leslie Mayers, I'm Ken Stout. Thanks for watching the Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League.